Goodwill Remedy are a four-piece band from Brisbane with members Will Lebihan, Mitch Reid, Dave Newman, and Rob Penman. They have released 6 albums and played over 1,000 shows. The latest album is Sunshine State. Lead singer and bass guitarist Will is here to talk about it and a few other things. Hi, Will.
Hi, how you going?
I'm very well, thank you. And I've been listening to the album. In fact, I've been listening to a few of your albums. So I think I have a good sense of the band and its mission, for lack of a better term, but we'll get to that. I'm going to start with the new album, Sunshine State, because the title is literal, you are in Queensland, but I'm also wondering if it's figurative.
It is a little bit. It's about state of mind, to be honest. You get a certain feeling sometimes that things are going, you feel good about yourself. I don't know what triggers it, but you get that happy feeling inside and you're in like what I call a sunshine state. So, that's where the song initially was driven from, and then Sunshine State obviously links up with Queensland, and I've told everyone the story. I tried to pitch it to Queensland Tourism. I said you should use it for your beach ads and stuff, and they quickly told me that Sunshine, they want to move away from the Sunshine State theme, and it's so they obviously haven't told Main Roads because it's on all of our number plates. So I don't know, something's going on weird there with that. But it doesn't.
Also, why would they want to move away from it? Everyone's very happy to associate Queensland with sunshine.
Just an excuse for not using my song. I reckon that's all it is. I'm putting it down to. And instead of just saying, "Look, we don't think the song's suitable," they gave me out BS. So whatever. It's good. It makes a good story, all right. So
yeah, that's true. That's true. But it's interesting. You were saying that you had that phrase "sunshine state" for a state of mind. So is that something that you've actually been using for a while?
I tend to write songs. I'm still learning to write songs, and I'm still trying to get better at writing songs, and I'm really driven to get better without taking it all too seriously. And I'm slowly getting around the fact that songs that I write about feelings and the way I feel interacting with feelings, the world, seem to be the ones that are more resonant with us as a band and people when they listen to them. And I enjoy performing them after we've written them and recorded them. So Sunshine State was just a really good tag to stick on the end of a feeling that I get. And it's that Friday morning feeling when you're going, knowing it's Friday, listening to your favorite song in the car, cranking it. It's normally a Goodwill Remedy song. I'll throw that out there. And everyone, and you get that kind of buzzy feeling. So it's Friday and have to put up with this crap for one more day. You get that kind of feeling, and you start letting people in and waving to them in the traffic. And so that's that feeling. I think hopefully everyone can understand that.
I think it's great to put a name to it though, because then it's something that you can aim to cultivate.
Yeah, I think it is. I haven't really gone to anyone and say, look, I'm in a sunshine state yet, but I might have to do that because you're in that kind of a moment where you're really up all the time, or you've got that little bit of a buzz and you get excited for about 10 or 15 minutes, and people don't know. Dogs do it. I guess dogs get zoomies, so maybe it might be our zoomie. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe. Now, you said you're still learning as a songwriter, which is an interesting statement considering that these 6 albums have all happened since 2018.
Yeah.
Clearly you are no slouch when it comes to writing songs. So when did you actually start as a songwriter?
I would say I've only just started writing properly and thinking about what I write. I started writing songs when I was probably 16 or 17, but they weren't really songs. They were just noises.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I was playing in a really heavy band. Like a lot of people, when they start learning, I was playing in a really heavy band, which is really technically difficult. So, I was trying to learn how to write songs, but also make sounds over this complicated stuff. So I don't think I've really started writing until I've been with Goodwill Remedy properly, to be fair. Although I've written songs for well over 25 years or so, I don't think I've really started to write songs that I'd call songs until more recently, till I've sort of actually dialed into them a little bit more and thought about a bit about what I'm writing and how I interpret what I'm feeling and how the song represents that. So again, without taking it all too seriously, I think you run the risk of doing that. But I just want to make sure I enjoy improving and challenging and people challenging me to improve. So that's the only way you're going to get better, I think.
Yeah, I mean, there's a phrase, beginner mind, which could be applied to anything. And it sounds like you have beginner mind when it comes to being a songwriter, in that, as you said, you feel like you're just at the start. People who have beginner mind are usually always interested in learning more. They're perpetually curious, and it tends to make them a lot better at their craft because they're just pushing themselves all the time.
Yeah, I agree with that totally. I mean, I've done a couple of co-writes the last few years, which is something I never thought I'd I do or be interested in doing, and that was really opened my mind a little bit. Been to some songwriting workshops, which takes everyone out their comfort zone, and because I'm a music nerd, there's not a minute of the day where I'm not thinking or listening to music, or a time on the weekend where I'm not planning to go and see another artist and get inspired by what they do. And I think I just love the whole thing about music and artistry and writing. So I'm always I think I'm always be a student, whether it's playing bass, guitar, or singing or whatever. I think I'll always enjoy that progression and trying to get better at everything. I think that's the key for me anyway.
Mm-hmm. Now you mentioned bass. Were you a bass player in this heavy band you were in?
Yeah. Bass is my first real instrument when I was young. So I always liked playing bass. So I played bass and sang for ever since I started playing live, really. So that's just an instrument that I don't play as intricately technically as I used to, because I can't anymore, because I just kind of lost the chops or lost the interest in working that up. But I really enjoy it. I think, I'm fortunate enough to play with some really good musicians who I can sit in pretty well in the background and let them do their thing, and I'll just hold in the bottom end, which I'm happy with.
So why did you choose bass as your instrument? Because most people do go to guitars, particularly young men. Guitars seems to be the thing.
Yeah, I get it. I think bass. My parents listen to a lot of music. My parents are British. I listened to a lot of music when I was younger. A lot of Mersey beat and kind of British music. But then Mum was a big Motown fan, and I used to listen to Motown all the time. And I wanted to understand what triggered that feeling that I listened to Motown, and it was the bass all along, and I just fell in love with it. And then it was Susie Quattro. She was my first ever girlfriend, and she never knew, but and I thought, well, that's done it. So I just started enjoying bass playing, listening to it from there. And I got my parents bought me a cheap bass when I was late in high school, and I just took off from there. I just loved every minute of it from there.
Fantastic. And of course, there aren't many lead singers who are also bass players. Sting is the one who springs to mind immediately, but it's not that common.
It's not. It's funny because we play a few gigs, and a lot of people talk to me about, we don't see many bass player singers, but there's some real crackers that people forget about because you don't realise it. Like you mentioned, Sting, Paul McCartney's another one. Susie Quattro is another one. I mentioned her. Lemmy from Motorhead is pretty popular, and the Video Kills, the Radio Star guy, Buggles.
Oh yeah.
Bass player singer. So there's not too many of them. They're all a bit quirky, so it probably suits me too, to be honest.
And I should also mention within Australian country music, Matt Cornell is a bass player.
Matt, yes, yeah. Well, we can't. Matt is a great player and a top fellow. He's living up here, up this way now. So yeah, sorry, I should have mentioned Matt for sure.
Oh no, it was more than look. I should have mentioned him first instead of saying Sting. But there you go. We have acknowledged him now.
Yes.
Now back to Sunshine State. The album does sound upbeat, so it does sound like a sunshine state of mind. Did you have fun in the studio?
We did. We always do. We try and change a few things each time we go in to see if we can do things a little different. We worked with Jeff Lovejoy again, who is a local engineer, producer, and music stalwart really in Queensland. And we did an EP with him, our last EP with Jeff, and then we did Sunshine State with him, the full-length album. And we generally try and go in there as prepared as we can without trying to ruin the moment. So we always have fun. The thing about being in the studio is songs seem to jump out of the speakers that you don't expect them to. When you start playing and recording them, bits and pieces start coming to you. The guys get inspired, creative, and you get these pieces in parts of the songs that you think, well, that's just taking that song from there to there. So we had a lot of those moments with Sunshine State, because I kind of think it's the best bag of songs we've kind of done over the course of in one lump anyway.
Yeah, right. You mentioned going into the studio prepared but not wanting to ruin the moment. Does that mean you're conscious of not overworking something before you get there?
Yeah, I think as a bass player, Robbie, my best mate, plays drums. Robbie, we always want to make sure we were across as far as the rhythm section goes, and we've got the tempos and the way the songs feel down. But I think if you overwork things in pre-production a little bit too much, you lose that creative spark in the studio, which kind of gives you that energy in the studio, that kind of that weird energy where you get a little bit more lively with the songs. I think if it's all pre-planned and everyone knows exactly what they're going to play before they walk in the door, I think that's not the way I like to do it. I like to do a little bit of kind of creativity on the spot within reason. You know, obviously we can't create everything right from day one, but yeah, I just like the idea of going in and having room to reach out on a few songs and a few parts and a few ideas. So I think that adds to the stigma and the magic of the studio, I think. And then everyone gets involved. The whole band gets involved. The producer gets involved, and it's always fun to do that whenever we can, I think.
I suppose for you as the songwriter, it means having complete trust in the individuals you're in the studio with, so you can let those songs go essentially. And as you said, some things jump out of the speakers at the time, and there is that creativity.
Yeah, we record every rehearsal. Like when we start like pre-producing, do some pre-production for the record, which we're starting on the new one probably in the year. I record every session, and I always, you know, throw it in a little studio file and then send it to the guys. So we're pretty well familiar with the rough songs as they go in. But I've got full trust in the guys. I mean, I'm really lucky that the three guys that I play with are three of the most sought after musos up this way now. You know, Dave, Mitch, and Rob are all really busy doing other things, and you know, since we've started, which is great. So you know, I'm really lucky that I get to bring in, hey guys, I've got this song idea, and I can kind of bring it in, and they just, you know, sparkle it up and put the magic into it. So I've got full trust in those guys, what they do, and I mean, some songs I have a fixed mental idea of how they should sound and what I'd think would work. But generally, the guys just they do their thing, we do their thing together, and working with Jeff is great too. You just kind of let them do their thing and see what rolls out at the end.
Mm-hmm. Now, across the band's albums, for me, there's definitely a sense that this is the band that likes to entertain, but also create meaningful songs. So I think that goes to what you were saying about documenting your experiences. But is it accurate to say that that's the intention, that there's that balance there?
I think so. Like we love playing live. We love putting on a show, and we like interacting with the audience and with each other on stage, and not taking ourselves too seriously. And if that comes across in what you've listened to, then that's great. That's exactly, you know, that's exactly the vibe that we want to create and what we try and do wherever we do it. And I think it's important that, especially that, you know, we're somewhat mature. You get to a point where you do start it's a trap to start taking yourself too seriously in your songs, and you just, you know, you close down as far as having fun with it. And that's ideally what we started for, and that's what we continue to do it for.
Now, you have, as I said, you have released several albums on the trot, almost one a year. I think there was only 1 year you missed, 2021. But from what I understand, this album you started writing during COVID lockdown, which in Queensland was not as long as it was for other states.
No, I always say I had a friend in Melbourne that used to tell me, oh, the worst thing about a 7-day lockdown is the first 3 weeks. So he was. I
shouldn't laugh. I shouldn't laugh, but you know,
I think
the line.
Yeah, but they really copped it. Yeah, we were fortunate up here. I mean, I don't think anyone really knew what we were stepping into at the time. So there was a lot of that kind of, what do we do? How do we go about it? What do we do to the borders? But I think it changed a few people's minds, particularly as an artist and audiences of music, live music followers. I think their minds kind of changed about what they had before that. And it, you know, as an artist and a musician, you know, things around you and what happens in the environment can't help but impact what you're thinking about, what you're writing, you know, what you're playing, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm. Now, given that you have released and recorded so many albums in quick succession, I'm wondering if you just continue writing songs and then you're like, oh, okay, I've got enough songs for an album now, or do you actually set yourself that goal of, because you said, you know, you're already thinking about next year's album, recording next year's, like, do you set yourself the goal of, all right, I want to record an album, I'm going to write towards that?
I try and get into the studio every year, whether it's with the band, and I hope, you know, next year will be the band, and that's the best fun when we're all together. But if for some reason we can't do it for, you know, schedules or whatever, then, I'll go in myself to just do a little bit of stuff. But I just constantly write songs. I really, someone in the industry that I really admire and respect, once told me that just, you know, when we were first working, on I think it was the second record, he said to me, well, I said to him, oh, I think I've got all the songs. I think I'm ready. He goes, I'll just keep writing. And I went, what do you mean? I said, I've got the songs, I'm ready to go. And that sort of resonated with me. So I'll just keep writing now, thanks to Graham Asho. And I'll just keep writing right up until you get to record something. So, you know, for Sunshine State, we might have had upwards about a short list of 20 songs kind of thing that we whittled down, and this and the next record will be probably something similar.
Right. And are you someone who will reuse, or not reuse, but use the songs that you discarded, say for Sunshine State? You think, okay, well, that can go on the next album, or you're like, no, they were not right at that time, and therefore I'm just going to park them maybe permanently.
No, I think you can revisit songs and pull them back out. I think there's a couple of songs. There was one on a last EP called I'll come back to you. That we pulled out, and it was just sitting on my hard drive on my computer, and I listened to it and thought, yeah, that's pretty good. Why did I throw that away? And just needed a lease of life, and kind of that took it to the boys, and they kind of breathed a little bit more life into it. So that was one particular example, which means absolutely nothing to you or the viewers, because I can't remember the name of the song, but I will shortly. So that was one of them. Sunshine State was an example where it was a song that I'd kind of written. It's only got two or three parts to it. It wasn't really much of anything. And the two guitar boys come over here regularly. We have a little bit of a play and a sing and tell a few lies. And I just sort of played it at the end to say, oh God, that kind of got this thing. What do you think? And it just kind of grew a bit of life. We recorded it pretty quickly, and that was so. Some songs that I don't really think are anything or worth persevering with are sometimes the ones that the guys breathe life into, and therefore I get a lot more life into them as well. So it's really strange. I don't know. It's a dark art. I don't know how it works.
I think in general that's true about it being a dark art. But I'm wondering also if maybe you are a hard marker for your own work, because you're saying the guys can sometimes listen to those songs and say, well, actually there is something in that.
I think so. I think that's probably the trick of improving. I think is giving yourself a little bit of a hard mark, if that's the term, to sort of say, well, yeah, that's good, but how could it be better? Or at least when you do strike that little bit of gold, which happens from time to time, you think, oh, that's pretty good. You know that you're accepting that and letting that one go through because you've got it to the best that you think you can. So I think the secret behind improving for me, I think, is to challenge yourself as much as you can, whether it be instruments or general work or anything. Is challenge yourself to do better.
Mm-hmm. So when did Goodwill Remedy form? Was it not long before you recorded your first album, or had you been together for a while?
That song was Stand Tall, by the way.
There you go.
Sorry. I was gone, but I'm back now. Stand Tall, yeah. So anyway, initially I was playing with Mitch, the guitar player, as a duo. And I just wanted to do an acoustic thing. We had mandolins and acoustic guitars, and we wanted to do an acoustic record, and we were down that kind of vibe. And then Rob, my best mate and the drummer in the band, came and had a jam, and it just automatically got rockier, which was fine. We went with that. And then we did our first record, self-titled record, with Mitch on guitar. He played all the guitar parts. And I'd known Dave previously from a previous life from QUT, where I'd studied music. And when I went back later to help with some mentoring sort of stuff, he was a student. So I reached out to Dave. He had some space to come and have a play, and then we just all got together, and that was it. So it was one of those times where you kind of knew various people you've always wanted to play with. They had time. We played a few, had a get together, and it just seemed to sit and work really well, and more importantly, we all get on really well. We don't there's no real dramas amongst any of us, which is really great. That's the most important thing, I think.
I think you can hear that on the songs as well. There's a certain looseness there, which is not to suggest sloppiness. Actually, it's a different concept. It's that idea that things kind of flow quite easily, that there's a bit of movement between you all.
Yeah. I'm really lucky. I'm really lucky. I keep saying it, and I've got it, and I want to keep acknowledging the guys, because it's something really special to have musicians around you that can do what those guys can do and challenge themselves as much as they do as well. But I think, I don't mind being loose, because I think most of Rolling Stones records were loose in a good way. So I think you can get to a point where you get so tight, you get loose again. So I'm good with that. But yeah, I think it is good, and the guys enjoy creating as we move towards the studio. They enjoy thinking about that creative kind of area, because it's totally different from, you know, we're essentially, when we play live, we're a bar band, we get the room running and rocking and we do a show. To change your mindset to go into the studio is a little bit of a different approach. And yeah, I think that I'm really lucky the guys get right into that and plug right into it, which is good for us and the songs and the records.
Yeah. So in that heavy band you mentioned that you were in when you were younger, were you a singer as well?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I was a screamer. Not a screamer in the sense of the word. Like, I'm not a Cookie Monster. I can't do the stuff the guys are doing now. They're amazing singers, absolutely amazing. And I know it's not for everyone, that music. I do like Parkway Drive and Slipknot and those sorts of things. But those singers are a different level. What they can do with their voice, I couldn't do that. But I was more of a high pitched screamer type singer. So yeah, I sung as well as played bass. And yeah, it was. I could even think about doing that now. Even now I get shivers trying to think about how I do it. But it was fun. You know, we in the band I was in a band called Pharaoh's Playground, and we played up the East Coast a little bit, got on Triple J and got on some compilations, and it was loads of fun. But it was just, you know, eventually you kind of grow out of that a little bit and I wanted to do different things, more song based. So here I
am. You mentioned going to QUT and studying music. Technically, as a singer, could you learn how to scream without ruining your voice?
Oh, definitely. There is and from the heavy singing, and there's a term for it which I don't know. I only just remembered the song before, so don't ask me to remember terms. But there is some specialist singers in Brisbane that actually train those heavy extreme vocalists how to do what they do. So from that end, I don't know too much about those techniques, although I enjoy it. It's not something I want to do. But when I had studied voice, I went to a singing teacher, a classical teacher for a while, and then found some other teachers who were really good. And I actually got scoped. I actually thought I had a problem with my vocal cords once, and when I was at university, because I was a vocal major, and they scoped me, which means they put the tube down the back of your throat, past that little punching bag at the back of your throat, past that while you're awake, and then you got a screen in front of you, and they put a camera down there, and they ask you to try and make all these noises so they can check your vocal folds out. And I learned so much from that, because I could actually see my vocal cords are like kind of curtains moving like this, and then my false folds. And it was there was nothing wrong with it, by the way. It had reflux. I was drinking too much coffee because I was a student. That's what it was. But it was mind-blowing. So when that happened, and I had a teacher who was teaching me about the voice as a mechanism rather than a sound, I learned so much from that perspective about parts of my voice. And sometimes I'll dial back into, there's a couple of teachers in Brisbane I really respect. Occasionally I'll drop in to those guys and just have a session with them and say, look, is anything sneaked in that you don't like the sound of, or anything you can tweak up? So again, it's that, learning, not sitting back on something just because you think it's okay type thing.
Yeah. So it's really interesting that you went in as a vocal major to that degree, considering you play instruments and you're a songwriter. Why did you choose voice as the focus?
Well, I did. It was like a shopping trolley. I did 3 different things across the 3 years. I initially went in as a composition major, which was weird because compositions are like orchestrals and really, which was good. And so I did a little bit of that, and then was doing a lot more singing and enjoying singing. I kind of built up a really good relationship with a vocal teacher, and Andrea Morris Campbell, who was there at the time, still there. She is, and enjoyed doing that for a little bit. And then Brian Martin, another vocal teacher, came on board when Andrea was on maternity leave for a bit. And Brian, male teacher, I'd only had female teachers up to that point, which was really great because, they were operatic singers, and they could, some of the sounds they made were mind blowing, beautiful, crisp, clean. And then I had Brian as a male teacher, which taught me a little bit about the vocal as a unit. So I did that. And then they introduced the first singer-songwriter course, if you like. So I jumped onto that. I said, I can do that for a bit. So I jumped on that. So I did 3 different things. And yeah, so I was really lucky. I kept the vocal lessons going in the 3rd year, which was great. And then I just did singer-songwriter, which essentially grabbed the composition side and the vocal side a little bit together and went with there. So it's a different institution now. It was great at the time when I was there. I think it's still great now. They've got new facilities, some really strong teachers and lecturers there. So yeah, it was a great place at the time. It's probably still good.
It's listening to your vocals, it's I can totally hear that background in that you have really clean, articulate vocals, and they're incredibly consistent across the albums. So that explains it. So it's always interesting for me to find out that kind of background when I'm listening to something and thinking, what's going on there? There's the answer. You studied.
Oh, thank you. That I really appreciate that. I think it's it's a fine line between being really clean and nice and spot on to having that rock kind of little bit of a. So yeah, no, I appreciate that. Thank you. It's something I'm conscious of, and I try my best to do. So that's really good feedback. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome. I only say it if I hear it. Now, given that you have the shopping trolley as a student and you can do a range of things, what do you think is your favorite thing to do with a musical artist? Is it singing? Is it like performing in general? Is it recording? Is it songwriting?
I could say yes. I think I have my moments with everything. I think on stage with the guys when we're really in the zone, and we generally find the zone at some point. I don't think there's much better feeling than playing to a packed out house, doing what we do, and knowing that, you know, we're just enjoying every minute of it and we're in the zone. I don't think there's anything better because you're sharing it with the guys that you love and you're working with, and as well as the crowd are all into it, and everyone's got that complete energy and trust. And I don't think you can ever undersell that. So I would say that'll just win it by a nose, I reckon.
Yeah. But it may depend on what you're doing at the time. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, on the other hand, you know, we could just as easily turn up to a venue that is empty and doesn't have as much of a vibe, but we still enjoy it. But yeah, I think that moment, and you know, we just finished our last show at Lefties a couple of weeks ago, and you know, the last set we played at Lefties was one of those moments where it was just insanely fun.
Yeah, I haven't been to Lefties, but I've been past Lefties, and it looks like it's a great venue and well located.
It is, yeah. A lot of people in Brisbane haven't been there because they don't know it's there, which is good in a way, but you know, also disappointing in another. But yeah, it's really worth it. And I think if you get the right night and you get the right music that appeals to you, then I don't think you can have a better night. It is like a crab pot. You can't never get out once you go in. It's one of those rooms where you wonder where the night's gone. But it's a special place for us. So it feels like our home ground when we play there. We really love it.
Right. So next year, you obviously have an album in the works. How far ahead do you book your gigs?
We've got bookings for April next year. We haven't got anything further than that. Well, we're hoping obviously to get a couple other festivals. If we do, then that's really great. But we haven't heard anything around that, and there's no expectation around that. We understand it's not an easy thing to book a festival and get the right acts on. So April, we've got a few. We haven't got anything past April at this stage. But we're we've got a pretty that calendar can be really intense sometimes and be like Tetris because of the guys. I don't do anything else apart from Goodwill Remedy and just wander around aimlessly. But the guys, because they're so busy in other things, we just really got to make sure everything lines up nicely. So the largest portion of notice we can get is always great. Yeah, we've got a couple of cool things for next year, but nothing. We haven't got a full calendar yet. But I'm sure that'll happen.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like, given that you played 1,000 gigs over the past few years, it sounds like you'll be busy. And I must also point out that that number of gigs, obviously there's a huge chunk of time where there were no gigs.
Yeah. Yeah, that was weird. And I was talking to someone just recently about that, and how it was weird at the time how much you actually missed it, more than you thought you would. And then when we kind of Lefties were really great to us. They kind of booked us straight after some of the COVID restrictions lifted, like virtually that first weekend, bang, we're in. It's like first week. And it was weird because, you had to sign in. They had health inspectors at the door, making sure everyone did the right thing. We had masks on. When you're walking around, you couldn't sing to the songs, you couldn't dance to the songs, you had to sit down with the masks on. But when we went on stage, you had to take the masks off, we could sing and dance. It was like really weird. But good, because everyone just sort of said, in my mind, I thought everyone just sort of said, you know what, if this is what we need to do to go out and have a bit of a life again, we're doing it. So so it was weird, but the downtime in COVID, I felt in reflection now was really, probably really creatively great for me. I did a couple of podcast kind of things with a few friends that I've never really done those sorts of things before. I did a couple of co-writes and I discovered loads of other artists I kind of didn't really know as well, their music and their style before. So I think, it was really good from that perspective, just sitting, listening, learning, and just, embracing all that stuff.
Yeah. Is co-writing something that you intend to continue? It sounds like you do write at a pace where you might, outstrip a co-writer in that you've got your own stuff going on.
I'd love to do it. I'd like to do it with particular people. And that's tricky because they might not want to do it with me. But there's an element of co-writing with the band anyway. As much as the song comes finished, the guys still is around arrangements and around sounds and parts. That kind of spark gets lit from those guys. But I'm certainly down with co-writing. There's a couple of people I've approached already about doing, and it's just finding the right time where it doesn't feel forced, where you can just sit in there and kind of get it done really, and work through it and enjoy the process. So no, most definitely. I think I've learned, my younger self wouldn't have wanted it. My younger self wouldn't have needed it because we were so good back then. But right now, I think, I'm open to all that kind of new inspiration. I don't, I'm not shut down to any of it.
Yeah. Again, back to the beginner mind, which is where we started. So it's probably an appropriate point at which to end. Will Lebihan, it's been so interesting to talk to you. The new Goodwill Remedy album is Sunshine State, and people can check your website, I'm sure, for shows that are coming up early next year. They
certainly can. I'm so glad we matched colours.
It is important on a subliminal level. I just knew.
Nice one.
Thanks, Will.
All right, thank you.